Oh, yes.
Excuse me,
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Bob Jefferson, Fire Chief, and I'm also here as Bob Jefferson, Town Resident. Sorry to take up your time, I know as you are, but Mr. Harrington's comments, as well as some of his comments in his editorial the other day, I think are inaccurate. I think what he just portrayed to you is not true. For someone who's been in the office across from Chase for the last 5.5 years and is there daily, I can address some of the issues that he said with real facts. And maybe, shed it more light on it. You've addressed some of them, but for just a quick comment, for him to bring up St. Paul Cemetery as having better roads than this, I find. I lived in East Arlington for 40 years, and St. Paul is a wreck. It's also a Capitol cemetery that probably don't have much fun with. But as far as the parking on St. Ave goes, the fire apparatus does park there occasionally when we have to train. It's not that often. It's only when we have to do classroom training in the Emergency Operations Center and the Community Safety Building. There are training that we have to do that is required by both federal and state law that says that we have to have so many hours. For example, our EMT certification through the Office of Emergency Medical Services, we have to put in 24 hours every other year. Those are 8-hour days for 3 days. So on some occasions, recently this past spring, on 12 different days there may have been apparatus parked there. Other than that, we may come in for some classroom training, which may last an hour or two in the morning. We don't disrespect the cemetery. We don't disrespect the graves. Mr. Harrington does have a picture of one of our apparatus that was slightly curved into the grassy area, which we've spoken to the drivers about. On that given day that he did that, training was delayed. It was done in the afternoon because of a funeral that we had in the morning. And when they came in, the trucks were a little bunched up, so they parked side by side and one put a little bit in. I've spoken to them and told them we want all the apparatus parked on the pavement and in a straight line. On the day that Mr. Harrington mentions about the 50 cars that were parking here, I happened to be in my office that day. I saw him and Mr. Tremblay, another town meeting member, standing at the Mr. Street entrance. That's probably the day Mr. Harrington was going to meet his person. I can tell you for a fact that there was a funeral that was blocking. There were cars parking there, and it's during this construction, but there was a funeral there parking. He could have very easily walked to his family's gravesite. I could see that from my office. But what was blocking him from entering farther into the cemetery was the fact that there was actually a funeral there. And then there were probably 50 cars. On any given day, there may be 10 cars at the most. Sometimes it's 5. On a heavy day, there may be 20. I've been on the department for 30 years. We've trained over in this building for the past 30 years. When we do hands-on training, tactical training, we do that in the station. We're able to do that. We do not have a facility in our stations to do classroom training with audio-visual and so forth, classroom setup. The community safety building does have that. The community safety building for the past 30 years had a community room, which served the whole community. Unfortunately, that room has not been available during construction, but quite often youth groups will be there, or veteran groups will be there, and they'll use that upstairs room, and there may not be enough parking on Mr. Street, and they may back in the cemetery. For us, it's a matter of response. We've been suggested by yourself. Could we park down at Armstrong? Could we park somewhere else? Well, first of all, it would be interfering with their business, but when we are training, we are in service, we're there to respond. I will not have a delay in my response for either medical or fire emergency that they have to park out of the way. So, I know you understand that, but since Mr. Harrington showed them the video this, and since his editorial is less than accurate, I would like to make sure that you have some of the facts as to why we do that. And again, that is it. We do not want to delay in response. We come out of the community safety building, we cross Mystic Street, get on our apparatus and respond. Those apparatus are not out of service, they're in service while we're training. We do not have the funding, we do not have the manpower to put pieces out of service and train. I have some pictures here, just as an example. Mr. Harrington brings up about the fact that the roadway, you end up where you get a little bit of sunken area and so forth and so on. My parents are also buried over in that area of the cemetery. Right outside of their grave, these are examples of right outside their grave where there was a good 1.5 to 2 foot dirt section sunken down. When I go to visit my parents' graves on a rainy day, I sometimes have a puddle in front of my parents' graves too. There's no truck parking over there. There's no long-term parking over there. It's the nature of road salt, the way the roads slope, and normal people that come in to visit their family members. That situation, which is on the far side of the cemetery, is the exact same situation as on Sachem Ave. If anything, Sachem Ave is in better shape than over where my parents are buried. So, to be blaming the heavy apparatus, to be blaming the cars that are there, is not accurate. As far as the construction goes, it has been a matter of the construction that caused additional parking here. I've been here for 5.5 years as chief, up until 2 years ago when the renovation of the community safety building started. Yes, fire apparatus are parking here for training. There may be a couple of cars in there. But in general, none of it, and I can't speak completely for the police, but I am in that community safety building, I know whose cars are whose. They are not parking in the cemetery as a matter of convenience. If Mystic Street is full, if the parking on the police station is full, we have our whole office staff now parking over on Victoria Road next to Dunkin' Donuts. We're shifting the problem somewhere else is what we're doing. So we're shifting it around the neighborhood. We do not want to be parking in the cemetery. We understand, but at this point, construction of the building has caused that. Once they move back off of the street for the construction of the building, at some point they have taken all the space in the front of the station, which handles about 7 cars. And then all of a sudden, this past spring, as Mr. Rademacher can attest to, that the gas line is being replaced. Feeney Brothers are out there on a consistent basis. Again, the day that Mr. Harrington was there in July, and I was in my office, Feeney Brothers had the whole front of the Mystic Street, in front of the police station, dug up down to the 2 lanes. There's a house on the corner, the gray house on the corner of Sachem Ave and Mystic Street. They're doing personal construction. The construction vehicles that were there that day, 3 of them, were working on the house on Sachem Ave and continue to be there. So we've got them doing construction, we've got the construction of the gas lines, people working in the street, and then we have the construction of the safety building. I know this is all, you're all aware of this, but in the editorial, when you talk about 50 cars at a time, that's inaccurate. When you talk about us being there all the time, we're not. We're in there occasionally when we need to be in there. Usually it's an hour or 2 in the morning, and then we're gone. We've acted up respectfully. Mr. Harrington mentioned earlier that it's fire and police employees parking there. There are no fire employees in that building other than myself. And occasionally I do need to park in there because there's no place else to park. Again, chief of department, I don't have a designated parking spot. I come in and try to park in the parking lot or in Mystic Street, wherever I can. If I can't, then yes, I would be the only fire employee, and I'm parking my department-owned car in the cemetery when I come into work at the police station. So again, it's not all caused by the trucks and so forth and so on. You can see by the pictures of my parents' grave, again, which is in that same area, all the roads out there are like that. We hope, as you mentioned, to have, when we do the construction of headquarters in a year, we hope to put a training facility into the new headquarters. That being the case, capital approves it and we move forward, we will do our training at headquarters because we will actually have a facility to do that. That will remain one home. Other than the rest of, the congestion, what have you. But, again, sorry to take up your time, but I want to make sure that we, not everything was exactly accurate in his editorial or